So a priest, a rabbi, and a giraffe walk into a bar.
So this guy walks up to the
Which
widow
way did he
at her
go?
husband's funeral.
So we just stood there.
That's what
So
she
is the
said.
zebra
Dumbfounded.
black with white stripes? Or is he white with
What
black
are you
stripes?
talking about?
Who knows?
Come on.
Did he just say that?
Favorite
Walk into a
bubblegum.
bar.
Oh
You
my.
don't think that's funny?
What are you, some kind of comedian?
Why, yes. Yes, I am. I'm Terry Walters,
And I'm Terry Ann Zander.
and we are Some Kind of Comedian. And this is a podcast where we deconstruct the stand-up world, one comedian at a time.
Open your ears and your hearts
And your mind.
and your wallets.
Hey, not your wallets. What are you, some kind of comedian? Terry Ann, are you out of the dark yet here?
Barely. I'm out of the dark. I went from one cave to another. I am in my podcast cave now.
Yeah, we here in the Northeast have experienced yet another fun storm where the electricity has been knocked out for most of the state of New Jersey. Well, maybe not most of the state, but 500,000 people are in the dark still, literally this time.
Yeah, poor bastards.
I know, right? Let me just tell you this. One of the last times when I was still living in North Jersey, we took a bad, we had a bad snowstorm, and that was the time we lost a lot of electricity for about a week. And do you have a well, Terry Ann, or do you have?
Oh, you have a well.
I had
You
a well,
well.
yeah. So you know
Oh,
what that
man.
means, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, that means you have to figure out how to fill your toilet up, right? Because a week is a long time to go without a toilet.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like Little House on the Prairie. Luckily, there was 3 feet of snow outside, so we were able to. I had my big beer making pot that I have. I was I was warming up snow on the stove to create water to put into the toilet bowl. Yeah.
You stayed away from the yellow snow only to make yellow snow liquid form later.
Yeah, it was like a real weird kind of, it was wacky. I learned a lot that week about myself.
Yeah, I think you know what? It's these kinds of things that show the other side of ourselves, the outdoorsiness, our resourcefulness. Yeah.
Our
we all
survival
make do.
instinct.
Yeah, there you go. It's all about, and for me, I need a bathroom at all times. So I'm glad we have, we don't have a well here in the house. So water was not the issue. It was just pure, microwave was the only thing that we were really looking forward to working.
Well, yeah, the microwave, I can't really figure out how to do that. But it is something that is necessary, I think, for people.
We've recovered. We've recovered nicely.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad that people are evolving from the darkness. And with that, speaking of that, I'm going to crawl back into the darkness and let you introduce our guest for today.
Fabulous. I thank you so very much, Terry.
Coolio.
It's great to be here on another edition of Some Kind of Comedian. And we have another guest with us today who has a long list of accomplishments, which I don't know. We only have a 30-minute show, so we may run out of time, but we will do our best to do her justice. She had a one-woman show called Sometimes I'm Okay, which debuted at the Producers Club in 2016. It was so awesome, in fact. The show was chosen in 2017 and showcased at United Solo Festival at the Studio Theater of Theater Row. So she's an actress and a comedian. Her comedic experiences have ranged from Foxwoods Casino to the New York Comedy Club, Gotham, Broadway, the Metropolitan Room, Catch a Rising Star, Princeton. She's a do-it-all comedian, writer, actress, performer. If we could give a warm, some kind of comedian, welcome to my friend and comedian Randi Simon Lupo. Randi.
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, I'm delighted. Did I do your introduction justice, I hope?
You did great. I loved it.
Yeah, You know, I got to tell you, I'm wondering, to go from stand-up stage to a large theater stage. Is that a different kind of experience? How does that happen? I'm curious about that.
You know what? It is different, but I feel like stand-up comedy pretty much prepares you for everything.
Okay.
Because as a comedian, you do everything. I mean, especially when you're starting out, you take any show you can. You're doing these horrific and heinous bar shows with 7 TVs blaring, nobody listening to you.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it really gives you great practice. If you could do that, you could do anything.
Yeah.
I have to say, but there's something beautiful about a theater, though, because it's like different etiquette for a theater. First of all,
sure.
everyone is facing you, so
right.
that's always a plus.
Mm-hmm.
and everyone claps for you. It's just like a different theater is just like a different culture.
Right.
And stand up, right away how you did. Right away if you did well or you didn't do well because the audience reacts to you immediately. With the show, they'll clap for you either way, and it's because sometimes it's hard to know how you did till after you get a review or something like that. But that's like the difference to me. But honestly, I love them both. I really do.
Yeah. Well, what came first, the theater or comedy?
Comedy came first.
Comedy came first. Okay.
And then I would tell everyone I want to do a one-woman show. I want to do a one-woman show, and everyone was like, "Why do you want to do a one-woman show?"
Yeah, it's an excellent question. What the hell?
Yeah, I wanted to do it. I had to do a one-woman show because I couldn't get another woman to do it with me. So it was like,
that's a good reason.
Yeah. So.
And we didn't know each other back then. I would have done it with you back then. So is there a market for 2 women shows? I have no idea.
I have to tell you though, my one woman show, it did not come from ego. Like everything else in my life comes from ego. My one woman show did not. There was something inside of me that I had to do it. I had to, and it had to come out. There was no option.
That's interesting. So you were drawn to that, right? And did you take in developing the show? What was it? An hour long? Is it an hour long show?
Yes.
Okay. Now was it? I'm kind of inexperienced with that kind of event. Is it all scripted? Is it just a very long? Forgive me for saying that. Is it a very long version of a long stand-up? Or is it and actually, it's the same thing every night, right? It's like a play. It's like a long monologue. How would you describe it for someone who doesn't know?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's more. Even though I'm one person doing it, I'm playing different roles and creating different scenes.
Okay.
And it's I feel like it's my life's work.
Okay.
That went into the show. I mean. I really it was like my blood and guts and tears that went into that show, and I think that's how I could best describe it. And yes, there was a script, and the show had every time I did it in different places. I also did it in Cape May and in the theater in Freehold, New Jersey. I debuted it in the city at the Producers Club, but every time I did it. There was always tweaks made to it. For every incarnation of it, there was always tweaks. It was still the same story, but either little pieces were added or taken away. Mm-hmm, it was perfected each time.
And how long did it take you to develop it to actually bring it to the debut in 2016 in the city?
It took me 5 years.
Wow.
And I expected it to be much, much sooner, but a lot had happened in the 5 years of like fear was a big one,
right?
And having someone who I thought was going to direct it, and then said that they couldn't direct it, and I kind of got thrown through there, and felt more fear and like, oh no, what am I going to do now?
Right.
And then I moved forward and I spoke to people and asked for recommendations. And then I had a director named Karen Cook who was amazing to work with, and we just hit it off, and we worked so well together. And without
That's important.
Her,
yeah.
Without her, she, I always say I had two angels. I had my acting teacher Elizabeth Browning, where I would go to acting class every week and tell a story,
Mm-hmm.
and this one woman show came out of that, like just basically telling stories, like out of storytelling.
Yeah.
And then meeting Karen Cook and having her direct it. So Elizabeth Browning and Karen C. Cook were my two angels. Without them,
Well, that's great.
Never been.
Well, you have to give yourself credit too, because it was your life, right? It was your take on life, or your perception of life and your experiences, and your ability to tell a story. Because as a comedian and as an actress, you have to have a story to tell in the first place.
That's true. And I was pretty lucky because my parents gave me a great story to tell, as I think all of our parents do.
Well,
and like I said, even though it was a one-woman show, behind the scenes, like I said, those two other women that I mentioned, it really, it's just funny how, like, I'm the one on stage, but yet it took the three of us to really get this
right.
show going.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So how do you go? I guess it's a different kind of, like you talked about the audiences being different between stand-up versus theater audiences and the cultural changes. And then how do you go back, right? So you said that the show, debuted in the city and you moved it around and did it in other places. Are you, well, now we're not doing anything, but are you able to still, I mean, you own it. It's your show. Are you still out there actively, would you use the word marketing it, or trying to bring it to other venues?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to travel with the show.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely right now I'm between engagements with COVID-19.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely active in marketing the show, and you have to. And I can't. I'm actually, like, I'm yearning to do it again. I'm also writing a second one woman show. I'm in the process of that as well. And
that's
I don't know
fabulous.
why. I just seem to really like to do things like this.
Well, why would you do something you don't like to do? I mean, hello.
That's really a good question. I guess I used to be a bit of a masochist and did things I didn't like to do. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, well, not a problem. We move from ego to masochism in a few short minutes.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's and I like how you said you're between engagements. I think that's fantastic. That's a great explanation of why we're all just sitting here waiting for something to do live in front of people. Whether it's, at this point, I wouldn't mind doing it on the, in one of the bars and to compete against the 6 o'clock news, wherever, because
Exactly.
we all need, we need to do it. It's in our veins.
No, it's true, and I know we're doing like Zoom shows and and open mics and all this kind of stuff, which is great because it keeps everybody going. But the truth is, we crave a live audience.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I explained it in one of my earlier shows. It's kind of like a drug. Like we get addicted, and then we need our fix. And
it's so true.
Right? I mean, I don't have any other addictions that I would discuss online, but there are only a few people who know about those, and they're on the dark net. And they don't know my real name. So I like how you describe that, what is real and how those real things can be so ridiculous. Where do you come up with with the content for, we know kind of about your one woman show, but what about, your stand-up act? Where do you come up with content for that? What kind of comedian do you categorize yourself as, if you put yourself in a category?
Sure. I do like a lot of personal comedy, like about my life, about my kids, about situations that happen. So, some of it is observational, but a lot of it, I have to say, is very personal. Just like things that happened in my life. I remember, like, when I started out, I had mentors that would be like, you have to twist that. Nobody would ever believe that happened. You're going to have to twist that and this and this. I think as comedians, lots of times we just have crazy stuff in our life, and if you don't laugh about it, you're going to end up crying. So I think that sometimes it's better to laugh.
Right. Well, it's always better to laugh.
And give other people the laugh. I'll tell you the truth. My whole life, I always felt people were laughing at me and not with me. But now that I'm old, fat, and tired, I almost don't care if they're laughing at me or with me. Just laugh.
Right. Come on, just laugh. What do you got to lose, right? That's great.
Exactly.
That's great. So you're talking about the observational comedy and your kids and a mentor. That's an interesting thing. I think more and more people look to have mentors and people that kind of guide and shape. And you talked about your acting coach and your director. Did you have anybody outside of those folks that you considered a mentor in your pursuits?
Yes, I mean, I had a lot of mentors. I mean, I had Jessica Kirson, I had Bob Gonzo, I had Jim Mandrinos, I had so many. I think I don't know what I had more of, therapists or comedy coaches. I mean, they're kind of like in indirect competition with each other.
Well, I was going to say, I think they double as some of those things. I know I've had a couple along the way, and you can't help, right? When you're very connected to somebody like that. They wear different hats and depending on the situation, I would say, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jessica Curson's a name I hear often in the community, in the comedy community. And I'd love to get her on one of these days because everybody speaks very highly of her, and I've never had the chance to meet her. Yeah, I've heard that about her. And Bob Gonzo too.
It's like exactly. They're great. And Jessica Curson, I mean, I'll never, I have to hold my stomach. My stomach literally hurts from watching them. You're laughing so hard, like you're doing belly laughs from her. That it literally hurts. Right.
And that's good, right? We all need that, like you said. And I'm always trying to find the funny in everything, right? And you bring up an interesting point about, belly laughing and life and the choice between laughing and crying. And trying to do what you enjoy doing, and bringing that to everybody else. I'm interested a lot of times in the business side of things too. You had to engage a lot of people, well, two people in particular on your team, if you will, when you were putting together a one woman show. When it comes to comedy, right? It's a different scenario where you have bookers and I don't know. Did you ever have a manager or a booker that you got friendly with, or an agent? I mean, did you ever go down that road in your career?
Not at this point. I got a lot of shows from Bob Gonzo. He had booked me on a lot of shows, and a lot of it was through word of mouth, meeting people. And if you do one show, you get another show. So a lot of it, in a lot of places I got booked, on my own. But I would love to have an agent. I would love to go down that road of having a manager or an agent.
Yeah. I haven't gone down that road yet, but I'm starting to have conversations, just to dabble and look and see, who knows? Well, you and I met, it wasn't that long ago, but I'd say we connected, wouldn't you?
Oh, totally. I thought you were hilarious. I met you at Janet Regensburg's show with the teacher show where you hosted, and it was the first time I met you.
Right.
And I loved you because you really got that show moving. I mean, as a host, I think a host is a hard job, and it's so funny because most of the time they're giving the hosting jobs to newer comedians, and it's like a very, very important role because you're the one warming up the audience. You're the one keeping the show moving along.
Yeah. Well, some crowds are a lot easier to work with, right?
Yeah,
well, right?
Absolutely, and you got that and you got that show going, and you were great. You had me laughing, and then from there, we went, and from there we went on to doing the murder mysteries, which
Right,
I'm
right.
loving working with you guys on that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? And I guess that gets back to your writing and your little bit of your acting, obviously, because we're acting, right? We're doing things, and we're writing scripts, and we're doing that thing, and we're performing, which is it's an extension, if you will, right, of what we
It is an
enjoy
extension,
doing.
and that's different too. And I find myself loving it. I'm really loving it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we love you as part of the team, and we're trying to fill voids and feed our interests and all that kind of stuff, right? I was talking to a manager the other day in a workshop, and he was explaining how, you can't be just one thing, right? You can't just be a comedian. Like, you kind of have to have a bigger toolbox.
Yeah,
right?
you have to have different skill sets. Exactly. The tool, like how you said, it's a toolbox or skill sets, different skill sets. I think it takes you further. It really does.
Yeah,
and especially if you have ADD and you need to be all over the place.
Right. You can't concentrate. Squirrel. Yeah, you can't concentrate on any one thing for a very long period of time. It's like you grow. I don't want to say you get bored, but you need to be challenged, right? I guess that's more it.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I like the way you put that. Exactly. You do need to be challenged, and I think different things do present different challenges, and it makes you grow.
Right. Well, speaking of growing, because you talked about, you've got the one woman show, and you already started to write a second one. Like, what I don't want to say it was boredom, but you obviously a lot's happened in the last several years, right? And you talked about tweaking the first show, and now you're working on a second show. So is it I don't want to call it boredom, but are you trying to challenge yourself again? Can I come up with something else, perhaps an extension of what I've already done? Or is it in a different point in my life, I have a different perspective? What's the going to be the difference between the two, if you can describe it, or maybe it's too early to know?
Well, no, those are all good questions, and I'm going to try to answer the best that I can. But I'll tell you the truth, though. Part of me was like, wait, do I only have one show in me?
Okay.
Wait, is that am I like an author who could just write one book and I just have one book in me? Do I only have one show in me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And I mean, if the answer was yes, so be it. It would have been yes. At least I could say, well, I still did it. But, whatever it was, I don't know. I was talking to someone about it, and they go, I'm sure you have more than one show in you. Why don't you try it? And then again, it's the kind of thing that it's something that it just certain things just need to come out of me, and I can't explain it. And like I said, it doesn't come from ego. It comes from a place of almost like a needing to express certain things. It just needs to come out, and there is no choice.
I got you.
It has to be done.
It's compelling you. You're being compelled. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Exactly. And it's hard to explain, but it is true. It is truly that way. When I did the first show, Terry, I never did a one-woman show before. I had no idea what to expect. And I said, you know what? I have to be prepared that everyone may hate it. And I'm going to have to be okay with that. If everyone hates it, then they'll hate it. But you could still say, at least I did it. At least I tried.
I give you credit.
Well, thank you. I just feel like I think everyone could do a one-woman show. I mean, because we all live the life, and it's like
except for the guys.
Except for the guys. What?
The guys are on their own.
Yeah, no, they could do a one-person. We could call them one-person shows.
Oh, that just doesn't sound as that's a one-man band. But you can either have a one-man band or a one-woman show, but you can't have a one-man show. I don't know. Just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. No,
it doesn't. I guess what would you call them? You would just call it a solo show. But I also love seeing solo shows. I've seen men's solo shows. I just can't remember the names. I don't know what's wrong with me, Terry. And to me, all men look alike, unless you're morbidly obese, then like you'll stick out, or like if you have something like.
Well, you'll do more than stick. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. But listen, I'm a chubby chaser. I'm not making fun. I love a fat. Oh my God, do I love fat men?
Okay, well, I'm gonna. Well, that our fetish show will be on next week. For right now. Oh my, I'm learning more about you. Okay, well, we'll have to work that into our murder mystery storyline for the next one. But oh my gosh,
please let's. Oh my God, that's
okay. Okay. Well, we know now that Randi Simon Lupo. All right. Well, you know what? While I have thoroughly enjoyed this, I think I have to start wrapping it up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell people where we can find you, because you're a little bit all over the place, which is great. So for people who want to find you, you have a website for sometimesI'mok.com.
Yes.
Okay. And that's all about your one-woman show. So people can check you out there. They can also check you out on Facebook at Randi, with an I, Randi Simon, Simon, like Simon says, Lupo, 1P, Lupo. So Randi Simon Lupo is on Facebook. And you also have a podcast, and I encourage people to check you out there at the Randi Lupo Show, which is connected to your Facebook page.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, Randi, for being a part of our show today. It took us a little bit to get it together, but thank you so much for being a part of.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me talk over you. Sorry about that, but I had a blast. Thank you again.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. And folks at home, remember to love, laugh with some kind of comedian.
Hey, thanks for listening. We consider you our fans, our groupies, if you will. So please support us by subscribing to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. You can also find us at somekindofcomedian.com. The opinions expressed on Some Kind of Comedian are the opinions of our individual guests and not necessarily the organizations to which they're affiliated. Some Kind of Comedian is a production of Taz Comedy and Moonfish Production Limited. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep laughing.
Okay, Randi, we're going to ask you a very thought-provoking question from the Book of Questions written by Gregory Stock, Ph.D. If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the body or the mind of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want?
Definitely my mind. Definitely my mind. I'd love to have a great body. I'm saving the great body for my next life. I already put in a request for a great body for my next life, but I definitely want to keep my mind.
Okay. Now
what
that's
about you?
I don't answer the questions. I just ask them.
It's good to be the queen.
Yeah. Have a great night, and thanks again, Randi. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you again for having me.